Okay, let's begin. Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm your host, Matt Jewell, content marketing writer at Feedvisor. I'm very excited for this afternoon's discussion, where our panel of Amazon experts will take a deep dive into the 5 key things brands are doing differently to win on Amazon and e-marketplaces this year. Joining me for today's chat are Danny Nadell, President and Chief Operating Officer at Feedvisor, as well as Andrew Alterson, Feedvisor's General Manager of Enterprise Brands. Danny, Andrew, how are you? It's great to speak with both of you today.
Thank you, Matt. We're very excited.
Yep, very happy to be here and appreciate everybody who's joining.
Definitely. And thanks everyone for joining us again. I'm so interested to hear both of your perspectives on what brands are doing in 2021 to really stand out and grow on such competitive e-marketplaces like Amazon. And I'm sure our viewers already have a ton of questions ready to go for the Q&A session we'll have at the end of today's presentation. As a reminder to our audience, you can submit your questions in this space provided at any point during the presentation, and we'll do our best to get to all of them. Now, this webinar will take an inside look at why more brands than ever before are selling on Amazon. We'll also discuss what kind of results brands are seeing from their Amazon advertising efforts. Additionally, Danny and Andrew will take a deep dive into the key advertising strategies and tactics that are driving the biggest results, as well as explore how Amazon is transforming itself into a full funnel experience for brands. Finally, we'll examine emerging e-marketplaces that you should know about outside of Amazon as we head into the rest of 2021. And so by the end of this webinar, you'll walk away with the ultimate roadmap for Amazon and e-marketplace success. Now, as you may know, our discussion today is based on exclusive data from Feedvisor's 2021 report, Brands, Amazon, and the Rise of E-Marketplaces, which features groundbreaking survey insights from more than 1,000 US brands, ranging from enterprise level to Fortune 500 companies. As you can see from the stats here, a real diversity of brands have been featured in this report. It really is a fantastic in-depth analysis, and I encourage everyone tuning in to download it after our chat if you haven't already. You'll also be provided with a free copy of our 2021 report, as well as a link to this webinar recording following today's discussion. Now, to kick things off, I was hoping we could explore our first trend of what brands are doing differently, which is that significantly more brands are selling on Amazon this year compared to last. As the report notes, an incredible 78% of brands currently sell on Amazon Marketplace, which is up from 55% the year prior. I mean, that's a remarkable 42% increase year over year. On the other hand, although the majority of brands have already embraced Amazon strategies, those that aren't are clearly eager to start as well, with 26% hoping to begin within 12 months and another 18% hoping to start within the next year, or 3 years, I should say. So my first question is for you, Danny. What's behind the rapid influx of brands to Amazon?
Sure, Matt. First, I think it's important to ground us all with the fact that U.S. e-commerce sales grew 32% year over year, reaching close to $800 billion. With Amazon having nearly 40% of that market share, the brands and merchants operating on the marketplace were the leading beneficiaries. For almost half of them, 47% of the brands that we surveyed with an Amazon presence, the platform represents more than half of their company's overall e-commerce sales, and that's up from 42% last year. And a very big factor in this growth was COVID. COVID forced the industry to transform practically overnight as consumers flocked to digital shopping. Online growth that was predicted to take years actually occurred in weeks, and it forced brands to adapt, to experiment, to learn, and to do it all very quickly. For those that were selling on Amazon, the vast majority, 83%, experienced a significant impact in their sales. 62% of them told us that their e-commerce sales increased up to 30% year over year. Q4 holiday sales performance improved for over 1/3 of the brands in 2020. 71% began testing with Fulfilled by Amazon, FBA, and 41% launched an Amazon advertising strategy, which we're going to get into in a little while. Clearly, COVID was transformative, but the main reasons brands are selling on Amazon is basically because it works. Brands see many benefits, as you can see on the chart, but new customer acquisition remains the #1 reason cited by 91% of the brands that we surveyed. This was closely followed by increased sales volume and increased market share. And for us, it all comes down to Amazon Prime members. There's 142 million of them now, and they represent over 1/3 of the US population, and they tend to be much more avid shoppers. So brands have a variety of levers now available to them that they didn't have before. including advanced targeting mechanisms, the ability to leverage their first-party data, either to create lookalike models or to suppress them from being targeted at all, and metrics such as new-to-brand sales, cost per new-to-brand customer, which is really helping them increase their acquisition effectiveness.
Great points, Danny. And what's also interesting in the report is that not only are more brands selling on Amazon, but they're also increasing their investment into the platform's advertising capabilities as well. So turning to you, Andrew, for my second question, does advertising on Amazon actually work?
Great question. It's one we get all the time, and one that we believe strongly in. But the data is very clear. And yes, advertising on Amazon is incredibly powerful, and quote unquote, it works. 62% of the brands that we surveyed said that literally it works better than any other form of digital media spend. I think that alone is pretty incredible. I mean, that's basically saying around 600 companies that we talk to are basically saying this is a stronger and more powerful way to advertise and get return than programmatic, than social, than Google. So that, first and foremost, everyone is voting that yes, it does work. If we kind of go down a little farther and look at the data and look at what we learned in this survey, you can see that over half the brands that advertise on Amazon are getting more than 7x return on their money, right? So think about where you advertise today, where you put your funds, what kind of return you get, 7x, and that's actually not the max. We've got a good percentage of companies see 10x returns on their money. This spans 1P, 3P, hybrid. Yes, the strongest group in this was the 3Ps in terms of what they said their performance was. But overall, measurable return is something which is very apparent. And we're really proud at Feedvisor. We see our clients following this trend, and our clients in general see almost 15x returns on their money. So we are big believers, and the data supports it, that advertising does work. And the last point here that we just want to make is that, again, the data is telling us that 88% of the brands we talk to are advertising on Amazon, right? And that is up from 73% last year. So fundamentally, people put their money where it works. They're growing their budgets too. If you look on the right here, and we asked all the participants kind of where they put their allocation and how that has changed year over year. While digital budgets overall have clearly grown with COVID, the only one out of our survey that actually saw measurable growth year over year into itself was Amazon, right? Amazon went from 25% of budgets to 28% of budgets, whereas you can see Google and Facebook and others decreased. I'm sure they grew in absolute terms, but in percentage terms, Amazon continues to grow and prove its ability to deliver advertising value.
Definitely. That's a great segue into our third topic, which is the advertising strategies and tactics that are driving the biggest ROI for brands. However, before we take a deeper dive into brand strategies, I wanted to just pause for a moment to open up the discussion to our audience for a quick poll question. So everyone joining us online, I was hoping you could just take a moment to read the question here, which is, if you could, which Amazon ad types are you currently using in your strategy? Take another quick moment to let everyone weigh in. Awesome, great. So yeah, just taking a quick look at the poll results, a majority of you selected sponsored products as the ad type that you're using the most in your strategy at 86%. Following at second place was sponsored brands at 63 and sponsored display at 57, with Amazon DSP coming in at 24%. So Andrew, turning back to you, looking at these responses, in your experience, which advertising strategies and tactics do deliver the best results in return on investment?
Yeah, great. Well, I'm really glad we got that quick poll in. So you guys can kind of use that data and look at it and compare here. So based on the analysis that we've done, and we see this in our work ourselves, sponsored products does overall deliver the greatest return as compared to the other ad types. But you can see that they all deliver pretty strong value, and they all are growing year over year. I did, catching that survey result real quick, sponsored products was the largest. Not surprising, DSP usage is the least. I think it was 24% I saw there. But I hope the audience takes notice. That is where people are seeing the biggest jump, both in usage, which isn't on this chart. It's in the report. There's a huge increase in the number using the DSP in conjunction with sponsored ads. But you can also see a really big jump in the value. And so, we're seeing that. We work with some very large brands in electronics and consumer products categories, et cetera. And they're all kind of seeing these very similar results. But again, this is based on what 1,000 companies have told us. And then, something which, isn't lost on us who work inside the Amazon ecosystem every day. When people say, well, why are these ads so powerful? They're powerful in part because more and more of the real estate inside the Amazon ecosystem, is evidenced here by some of what we highlighted here in the purple, is effectively ad real estate. And lots of a large percentage of kind of the quote unquote above the fold, kind of what the consumer will see first upon making a search on Amazon is pay to play real estate. And so it's really, really critical that if you're going to be inside Amazon, and we see the number of companies there, that you need to figure out the best way to leverage the ad units and ad strategies available to take advantage of all this real estate that's kind of up for air and very competitive.
Fascinating. Clearly, there are a lot of effective ways brands can utilize these various different ad types, which leads into my fourth question. Danny, when you look at Amazon advertising as a whole, do you feel like it is a true full funnel experience for brands?
Yeah, my short answer is definitely. Increasingly, Amazon is playing a critical role in that full purchase funnel. I think the last stat that I read is that actually over 50% of online purchasers start their journey on Amazon. And Amazon's been aggressively focused on expanding their suite of advertising options over the last few years. They've been evolving ad types, they've been evolving targeting options, there's new creative features that they've provided and content capabilities. And there's been a growing accessibility to brands of all sizes and niches. So as a result, brands are investing more throughout the funnel. When asked about their goals for advertising on Amazon, 68% of the brands surveyed said they want to drive brand awareness. That's a big change. 65% said it was all about acquiring new customers, which we saw earlier on as well, very consistent. And 60% said it's to drive sales, which is all together building to grow market share. So the answer is yes, we are seeing that. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see that Amazon has recently launched an array of new upper funnel offerings to really enable brands to generate that brand awareness that they're looking to do. These programs and activations are really intended to help brands drive greater engagement, greater interest to get into the consideration set, and also an increased share of voice just to drive that total awareness and reach. New offerings like Amazon live streams, where Amazon hosts are showcasing products, the features and benefits, almost like a live demo, to really give that interactive element to consumers to understand what's available. Audio ads on Amazon's free music tier to reach listeners on their Alexa devices. That they've introduced 4-star stores and are growing those rapidly. There's richer creative options and shoppable video content. So there's a host of new offerings that are really enabling brands to achieve those goals that we just saw. And what's happening with all the introductions of all of these new targeting types and strategies and tactics you can apply, it's the funnel's getting very, very full. If you look at this slide, what you can see is the funnel to the right, the funnel stages. You're going to see all of the array of options available now, the levers brands can use across experiential and retail programs, across the DSP and OTT, across sponsored ads, and across content and overall user experience. And this is how we view all of the options across the funnel. With our clients, we think about each of these levers and we construct media plans, basically, that will allocate budget across the tactics that are going to matter most at each stage of the funnel based on their goals, their category, their life stage. And, and we look at them all in tandem. While each one individually is going to be optimized, and we do that, you have to look at the power of all of them together because one really does build upon the other. As we think about the funnel, as an example, we leverage upper funnel tactics to drive engagement and interest and broaden reach. And this is pretty much for us focused around the DSP, where we're really selectively targeting prospects who are in market in the category, showing a high propensity to be a new to brand customer through behaviors and interests and affinity areas. And we layer that all together to drive that new to brand acquisition goal. We've also been testing combinations of the DSP and OTT to see the impact they have on increasing brand searches. So, we're kind of looking at all of these working in concert. We leverage mid-funnel approaches to capture those consumers who are in exploration, who are researching a category or researching a specific product. While they're in that selection process, we want to ensure we're driving consideration, pushing them to lower funnel search tactics, and of course, converting them. And throughout all this, we work with our clients, we leverage our platform. Feedvisor has proprietary technology. It's based on algorithms and machine learning where we're continuously optimizing to ensure that we're driving greater performance with everything that we're doing, as well as across the full funnel. And two other things I'll note. We've been very excited by the new measurement capabilities that Amazon is providing, including the introduction of the Amazon Marketing Cloud. Our teams are actively writing queries as we speak, and it's really going to give us access to enhanced data and attribution insights, really to understand that end-to-end user journey across all the touch points it takes for a conversion, to really understand what that full journey looks like. And the last thing I just want to mention is that, and it's connected, is that in the area of incrementality, it's becoming a much more important question clients are asking us. Several have said, but what is the true value, incremental value of advertising on Amazon? So we've been helping them to answer this question using statistical modeling techniques and in-market testing so that we can really understand for every dollar invested in media, what is that incremental impact into ordered revenue? So yeah, that's my answer.
Definitely. And thanks, Danny, for that real holistic look at all the different ways people can employ Amazon advertising throughout every stage of the funnel. Switching gears, though, to our final question of the day. And before we segue into our Q&A session, I wanted to take a look at e-marketplaces outside of Amazon. So Danny, beyond Amazon, where are brands focusing their efforts in 2021?
Yeah, well, let's just, it's marketplaces. It's definitively marketplaces. Globally, we're seeing that marketplaces are just exploding. Overall, I think e-marketplaces now account for 62% of global online retail sales. And they're outpacing any other channel within e-commerce. And brands recognize this. They see the opportunity. If you look to the right, over half of those that we surveyed shared that e-marketplaces are their greatest source of opportunity in 2021. And that's above investments in mobile commerce and social and direct-to-consumer. So I think brands have woken up. They really understand the power of marketplaces. And what's really interesting to me is that that's up 10 points over last year. And it's just showing the power of what marketplaces can deliver for brands. And if we move on, you'll see that while Amazon is the core focus, that hasn't changed. What has changed is that brands are realizing that channel diversity is really critical for their self-preservation. They're looking at e-marketplaces more broadly now as key channels to drive sales and brand awareness. I don't know if you can see this chart quite well, but over half of the brands, 57% of those that we surveyed on Amazon, leverage e-marketplaces beside Amazon to build brand awareness. And that's up from 50% last year. And that's followed by driving sales and product liquidation. Yet, what's important here is that 62% of brands said they put most of their popular products on Amazon. So their top sellers are going to Amazon, but they're using these other marketplaces to achieve different objectives, like selling through surplus inventory, testing, or selling off end-of-life products. As a result of this perspective, as well as the COVID effect we discussed earlier, there's been some really interesting changes in the landscape of how brands are using these other marketplaces. First notably in 2020, Walmart surpassed eBay to become the #2 e-commerce retailer, and Kroger broke through the top 10. The largest grocery operator are seeing very early adoption to their marketplace that they introduced in the latter half of 2020. And they're now in the top 10. And the other thing that I'll mention here is that when we asked brands where else they would consider selling next year, Google Shopping and Kroger are the top e-marketplaces that they would consider expanding to. Now, interestingly, Kroger outpaced other grocery giants like Instacart, Target, and Walmart. So we're seeing a real change in the landscape. Again, I think having the lingering effects of COVID factoring in.
Definitely. Well, Danny, Andrew, thank you again so much for joining us to discuss these important insights from Feedvisor's 2021 brand survey report. And before we move on, would you mind summarizing for all of our viewers the 5 key takeaways of what brands are doing differently this year to win on Amazon and other e-marketplaces?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we wanted to run you through a lot of that data. There's a lot more data in the report, but when we kind of look at what the information says, what the survey results are, and obviously the learnings from our own clients and day-to-day business, we did kind of see a few key things that we want to make sure everybody kind of takes away. The first one, is obviously with now 78%, almost 80% of brands we surveyed on Amazon, 4 out of 5 companies, the competition is just fierce. And so, the key to success is obviously putting together a sound Amazon strategy, but it is now become a necessary requirement to really leverage technology, leverage data in a way that puts you in a competitive advantage, or at least not at a competitive disadvantage. And so we highly recommend that everybody explore options out there, obviously consider what we offer, but it's really critical to find the right technology and data partners to allow you to get the most out of every dollar you put into Amazon.
Great. And the second point to underscore is that, and hopefully this came out through our conversation today, is that Amazon advertising has proven its value to brands. It's almost table stakes today. You have to be paying to play. And as Andrew said, there's the real estate on the search page is really dominated now by paid advertising. So we're seeing top brands allocating greater spend, integrating new ad types, certainly using sponsored ads and the DSP in concert to drive sales and ROI.
And so, the next point is that this ecosystem, and obviously we're very concentrated on Amazon because they are the dominant force. It is in constant flux and evolution. It's very dynamic from the sense of who's entering and exiting, what type of products they're bringing to bear, what the products. What their product mix might be, what their offerings might be and offers. So we highly recommend, and we're seeing these top brands, those that are succeeding, using it as an experimental lab in some regards, testing offers, testing messaging, and looking for different mixes to really get the most out of every engagement, every view they're getting to their product page. Hold on.
The next point is that Amazon is a full funnel offering, and we're seeing more and more top brands moving up funnel to leverage that growing reach and influence that Amazon provides. I will just underscore now that Prime Day has been announced, and it's going to be occurring in the next several months. So in June, get ready. And brands need to really be thinking about their full strategies way in advance of that to ensure that they have the optimal full funnel plan to really achieve their growth and dominate during a tentpole event like that.
And then the last point, which is critical, but obviously, as I said a minute ago, this conversation, this analysis, this study is very dominated by Amazon. But it's critical that brands continue to look outside of Amazon. There are a lot of competitors, trying to grow their capabilities, grow their presence, whether it's Walmart or Kroger or Target. There are lots of possibilities. There are obviously the vast array of opportunities that you can do through the Shopify type of environments as well. But ultimately, Amazon does need to be, given the metrics today, the dynamics today, needs to be the core of your e-commerce or e-marketplace strategy. That is not going to change anytime soon. But we do recommend testing, learning what's possible, and using these other marketplaces as your customers begin to go there to obviously be where they want you to be. And with that, those are really, as we see, top 5 takeaways that we would highly recommend everyone kind of absorb out of this webinar.
Definitely. Thank you, Andrew and Danny. And now, just as a reminder, we'll be sending out copies of the 2021 brand survey report to everyone this afternoon, along with the recording of today's webinar. However, if you'd like to download the report now, please use the link provided here. And moving on to our second and last poll of the day. If you're interested in learning more about Feedvisor and our services, please let us know in the poll provided, and we'll be in touch with you as soon as possible. And we'll give everyone just a quick moment to weigh in. Just one more quick moment. Okay, great. And yeah, we'll get started with the Q&A session now. And, if we haven't already, please take a moment to submit your questions for Danny and Andrew. We already have quite a few submitted. So why don't we start things off with our first questions here. Danny and Andrew, one of our viewers wanted to know more about Amazon DSP, which was mentioned quite a bit in the webinar. Could you speak more about why brands are starting to gravitate more towards Amazon DSP?
Sure, I'll start with that one. Yeah, so the Amazon DSP offers very rich ability to target different audiences. And those audiences range from those really near in that have exhibited behaviors. For example, they've actually gone and looked at one of your product detail pages or a competitor's product detail page. And it gives you the ability to retarget those audiences based on those behaviors over certain intervals of time. That's probably the lowest in. And then as you go more mid and upper funnel, as I was talking about earlier, you have the ability to actually target individuals that are in market. They've exhibited behaviors that show they're actively searching the category. You can do competitive conquesting. You can really layer on, in addition to those in-market audiences, lifestyle and affinity areas that really help you hone in on who who the sweet spot is for your target audience, so you get a very precise ability to target. And you can do it across different inventory types and both on and off Amazon. So the DSP offers a lot of flexibility, and we find it really, really helps us to drive that greater interest and reach, and driving more and more audiences that we can retarget over time.
Definitely. And another one of our viewers wanted to ask the two of you about ROAS and how brands are defining success. In your opinion, which metrics should matter the most to brands in 2021?
You want me to take that? I'll jump in.
Go for it.
So first off, there is some really interesting data in the study, I believe, on metrics and what people are finding valuable. So I recommend people look there as well. But in general, ROAS is one of these metrics, which return on ad spend, which is highly popular on Amazon. The inverse for 3Ps is typically ACoS, which one of them is the inverse of the other. But they basically represent the same thing, being kind of what is my return for each ad dollar invested, what is the revenue that I'm generating. And I feel like it is a very important metric. It is one that is very foundational to the Amazon ecosystem, given that Amazon is effectively an e-commerce engine to sell product. And so knowing exactly what the revenue generated is critical. And so we use it often, but we also use it hopefully appropriately, and I would recommend everyone using it appropriately. It is something which gives us a lot of indication and how revenue is attributed. There's a lot of nuance between how Amazon accounts for revenue in that math. So we do, as Danny kind of alluded to earlier, we've begun with many clients to start exploring a variety of alternative as well as supplemental metrics. One important one we highly recommend everybody start using more is glance views. Amazon recently added in more access to glance view data, which effectively is how many people come to the product detail pages, but they can come there in many ways, and they can come through organic means and paid means. But fundamentally gives you a really great mid-funnel view of kind of, am I generating traffic, and then using conversion analysis of, am I generating quality traffic. And the last piece to this, without kind of going too deep into it, is what Danny, I think, alluded to in part of the conversation around incrementality. That ROAS is a great metric to know, to kind of use and see trend and see that. But really, ultimately, it's important to figure out which of these sales would not have happened had we not done some activity, which is typically advertising, but it could be something else. And that is something which, again, we would recommend putting more time into and trying to understand that incrementality, so you can understand exactly how to best allocate your probably limited resources.
Definitely, for sure. And going into our third question now, you mentioned earlier in the webinar presentation about how Feedvisor clients are seeing, up to 15x or more returns on their advertising efforts. And one of our audience members was hoping you could speak more about that. For instance, if you were to invest $1,000 per month, would you get $15,000 in sales? Is that the 15x that you're referring to?
I'll take this, Andrew. So the 15x is the metric of, for every dollar you're spending, you should see 15 times that back in your revenues. That's what that metric means. And whether it's $1,000 or $1 million, we have clients spending balls on a monthly basis. The goal is really to ensure that it's being optimized to generate the greatest impact it can have. And so our technology platform, which is really at the heart of Feedvisor, we are an AI-first company that is fueled by algorithms, machine learning. We do optimization and have really rich intelligence as a result of it. We're able to really leverage that technology and the continuous monitoring and understanding of what's happening within the walls of Amazon. For every one of our clients' products, what does that search graph look like of the most important terms that they should be bidding on? What are the competitive threats that exist there moment to moment, term to term? And our platform is using that to understand how to bid, generate campaigns, how to optimize, and we're using predictive models to do that. So it's a real science because, as we talked about earlier, it's gotten so complex on Amazon that doing it manually is just not working anymore. Technology is required. So that is how we go to market with our clients. We use our technology to optimize and our teams to help strategize. And together, it's the perfect balance.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. And we have time for a few more questions. So moving on, going back to how brands are allocating their advertising spend, what % of companies' Amazon revenue are you seeing being allocated towards their advertising spend and their strategies towards advertising?
I'm trying to figure out if maybe you can restate it, because what we saw earlier, so tell me if this answers it. So I believe the stat was 28% of digital budgets were being allocated to Amazon based on the survey of 600 brands, of 1,000 brands. So I think that's kind of a good stake in the ground for partially, for answering that. Amongst our clients, I think we've seen, I don't know if it averages out to quote unquote 28%, but we've definitely seen very large shifts towards greater ad spend on Amazon, which again, from a percentage perspective, I would estimate as being kind of between that 20 and 40% of their digital budgets, especially during this COVID year, given that that's A, where the customer was, and B, the return was evident. So I'm not sure if that directly answers it, but that's kind of what we're saying.
Definitely. No, I think so. Thanks, Andrew. And just moving on more specifically to some of the strategies that people are employing. Obviously, we talked a little bit, both in our Q&A session and obviously in our webinar earlier, about Amazon DSP and sort of its capabilities. But in terms of actual investment into that type of solution, one of our viewers wanted to know, is there a minimum spend that's required while working with Amazon DSP?
You want to do it, Danny?
Want me to take that? Yeah. You know, what's wonderful is, so we now have a seat on the DSP. We've had it for over a year now. And for our clients, there is no minimum, you know, and that's the good news. When you're working with a partner like us, you can invest what you believe is necessary to experiment, and we would guide you on that, and test into it. So no minimums required, and we would just work with you to establish your KPIs up front, what does success look like, and, you know, ramp up investment accordingly.
Definitely. And piggybacking off of that into other areas of investing in sort of your Amazon advertisement, how does advertising investment on Amazon impact a brand's ability to raise prices? You know, one of our viewers wanted to know, is there opportunity for brands to drive towards a subscription model with their advertising strategies here?
It's an interesting question. I don't know if I have a direct answer for that one. I don't know if you have a thought on that one, Danny. I don't know if there's really a direct connection between an advertising strategy and a subscription model on Amazon per se. The only thing I could say is that, you know, we have clients that leverage the, you know, save and subscribe kind of tools within the Amazon ecosystem that allows you to kind of effectively turn product into a subscription model. And that does prove out to be, you know, relatively powerful for those companies where it's relevant. I think from an advertising perspective, it kind of goes back to the same thing, which is that you can't be bought if you can't be found. And you can't be found if you're not, unfortunately or fortunately, paying to play in those environments where Amazon has built the system, you know, to require a good amount of that real estate to be highly competitive. And advertising, you know, we didn't stress this maybe as much, and not to get too off track on the question, but you know, advertising on Amazon is an offensive and defensive game. You know, you can, by not advertising, by not participating in the sponsored ads ecosystem, you're effectively giving over to your competition the ability to conquest your brands and your keywords, et cetera, and for people looking for your product to effectively find their product. So I think it's important to say that if you were looking to build a subscription business, I would say you need to play offense and defense, and therefore you need to be active in leveraging all that the Amazon provides, which is a lot of advertising opportunities.
Definitely.
Yeah, Matt, I just want to add one more thing, because what I heard in the first part of that question, I think is worth dialing into a little bit, which is pricing and advertising. Can you raise prices? Can you advertise simultaneously? And I think that's another area that is critically important for brands that are selling in the 3P space in the marketplace as their own seller. The answer is definitely, you have to look at pricing and advertising working in harmony around a SKU. You know, an ASIN or a SKU needs to have its own P&L, and both components drive that P&L impact. And so, and again, you have to be looking at this strategically and leveraging technology to help you moment by moment, because the marketplace is dynamic. You know, prices are changing moment to moment, competitors are changing their prices moment to moment, and investing differently in advertising moment to moment. So it's very important that this be connected and synchronous. And the good news is, that's what we do. That is exactly what we do. Feedvisor was born around that concept.
Definitely. Thanks, Danny. And we have time for one more audience question. And Danny, you alluded to earlier about a projected date for Prime Day. So I was wondering if you could just sort of rehash that again. When is Prime Day projected to be? And how should brands be preparing for that this year?
Yeah, so we're hearing that Prime Day is going to be this summer, early this summer, and not in the fall like it was last year. And brands should be preparing in the next several weeks. You need to be thinking about Prime Day as more than a 2-day event. You need to be thinking about ensuring you have inventory levels in place so that you're not running out of inventory during Prime Day. So get that working now, given your lead times. You need to think through what your advertising strategy is going to be and ensuring that you lay out your advertising plan during that period of time. What does success look like for you? Establish those targets up front so you can figure out what the right investment levels are. So there's a lot of work to be done over these next few weeks, but I encourage everyone to start that process.
For sure. Thanks, Danny. And once again, thank you all for everyone who attended today's webinar. If we weren't able to get to your questions, a member of our team will be in touch shortly to make sure we answer them for you. And just to send everyone off, finally, Danny, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today and offering your invaluable insights and expertise on the key strategies brands are using to win on Amazon this year, as well as other e-marketplaces. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, everybody who attended.
Yeah.
Thanks again, everyone, and just have a great rest of your day.
Well, bye-bye.